YouTube, it's your boy, Sean Matrai, here again with the Duel Links KC Cup tier list. Alright, this is my rendition of the tier list of what I think the best decks are going into the KC Cup. So, give me 1 second. I think my sound is a bit off here. Ooh, give me one quick sec. And we'll have this going in 1 minute. Okay, perfect. Alright, so now you guys should be able to hear me. Anyway, this is what I think the best decks are going to be. And it's very, very, very crucial that you watch this so that way you know what to do as far as choosing what you want to play in stage 2. Alright, so first we're going to start up with the, I guess we can go in order. Some of these are old, so like some of these decks are not even going to be like relevant. Let me rename these. I'll name this tier. We don't really have an S tier, so tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, rogue, and doo-doo. I'll put copium / doo-doo. Okay. / poo. Alright, good. So, first we have Abyss Actors. This is copium. This deck is not very good. It's a deck that's around Sealed Tombs. It revolves around Sealed Tombs, but overall, it's not the deck you really want to be playing in Stage 2, honestly. Just because I think the deck overall just lacks. It doesn't really do anything well, except for Sealed Tombsing. I mean, you can OTK on turn 2. You do have, what's that one that steals? Whatever the one that's, Comic Relief, yeah. But overall, other than going Superstar and popping the field and Comic Relief stealing, it's copium. I don't think it's good. I would rank it above everything else in the copium pool because it can steal games under the right conditions, but yeah, not good. Magnets are not relevant at all, so, not even going to talk about. I'm not even going to put these there. The decks that aren't relevant at all, I'm not even going to put them there. Black Wings aren't relevant. Melodious is not relevant. Okay, Blue Eyes is Rogue. It's Rogue, but it's on the bottom end of Rogue. It actually has a decent matchup going into BLS because Spirit can negate the Ritual spell in the graveyard. You also have Azure Eyes, which could be difficult for them to kill through if they have, if they unless they threaten Legendary Flame Swordsman, they're not really going to be able to swing over 3k that much. Can't be targeted, so they can't Envoy banish it. Chaos Max can give them problems on the following turn. So yeah, Big Unga Bunga beaters make Big Unga beaters. But other than that, Blue Eyes doesn't really do anything else really well, go into any other matchup particularly well. It's decent against Live Twin, but, nothing that they couldn't really grind out anyway. Altergeist, it's also decent against, but like I said, Altergeist is probably low on the tier list as well. Overall, I just think that Blue Eyes lacks in the current meta. It's not that great. Doesn't set up too much disruption other than maybe the Effect Veiler turn 1, if you're lucky enough. But it's a rogue deck. It's not the worst, but not the best either. Could definitely use about to skill. Buster Blade are not relevant. Harpy's not relevant. DDD is another rogue deck. Almost copium doo-doo. I think it's like low rogue, even lower rogue than Blue Eyes. DDD just loses to a lot of things more than it wins. Getting Lancia can help you win against BLS, obviously, but you have to go turn 1. And it's even worse now because Effect Veiler's in the meta. So now you have to worry about getting your Coach King Veilered, and then on turn 1 you're not drawing, which basically means if they Veiler you, you probably already lost the game. So yeah, not really high on DDD. I think with Veiler gone, I think DDD can come fully off the ban list next time it comes around. Uh, but yeah, overall, this deck is just not very good. Right now. And so, yeah, it's almost Rogue. I kind of would have put it in Copium, but it's like low end Rogue because it could steal some games. There's that. Okay. Burning Abyss is not relevant, mainly because the Tenyi really ruins the matchup. And I don't think it does well in the Gandora either. 100% well. So yeah, we'll keep that all. Dart Magician's not relevant. Deco Talker, Code Talker, Salad, maybe. That's kind of Copium Salad Code. I'll put like this is Salad Code and I'll label Salad Code into Copium. It's not really great. I mean, you can set up 2 disruptions turn 1, but it's not, doesn't really have a favorable matchup against anything in the current meta, honestly. DM, not relevant. Hero, if we're talking about the Yubel skill, that's very low-end Rogue. Almost Copium poo-poo. The problem with that deck is that, like I said, it doesn't really do anything but cheese your opponent for burn. It doesn't really set up any kind of interruption turn 1 other than you drawing tech cards. It's good because of the sole fact you can do a lot of damage and gain a lot of advantage off the skill, but it feels like a worse BLS skill. Overall, in the fact that the advantage that it gains, overall, it's okay. I think that it could cheese out a few games. I think that there may be some aggressive versions with Sunrise that might be worth testing, but overall, I think it's nothing more than Rogue, almost Copium at this point, but, we'll see. I think overall, it's Rogue. Now, again, if your goal is like 20 to 30k, you can get like 20 to 30k with any of these decks. I mean, when I make a tier list, I mean for like doing really well in the KC Cup. But honestly, with any of these decks, you can probably hit around 20, 30k. If 30k might be a bit tricky with like the doo-doo decks, but like definitely the Rogue decks can get to like 30k, 20, 30k if you know how to pilot them well, for sure. But other than that, yeah. Metal Foes, not good at the moment. It's kind of Copium. Photon's not even on here at all. Gandorkist, okay. Gandorkist I have as tier 2. I think Gandora is one of the best decks going into the KC Cup. Primarily because the deck does really well against BLS if it goes first. And going second, you still have a solid shot to win against BLS. As far as Live Twin, like Gandora just generally does good well going first. Deco Galatea beats a lot of things in the meta. I will tell you it takes a really good pilot to pilot this deck because time is an issue and knowing your setups are an issue and how to play through ant traps. But the deck can get through Veiler and Crow. Even with Crow, like on double one, you could still get the full setup depending on what they exactly hit with Gandora. But I think that this deck is actually quite strong, Gandorkist. So yeah, BLS really struggled to OTK through Deco Galatea, which is obviously the best deck in the meta. Light Twin also struggled too. So like if you have a good turn 1 and against the 2 best decks in the meta, then I would say that the deck definitely has a shot to being good. And it can also, hand dependent, get through at least 2 disruptions. So I think that Gandora definitely deserves to be tier 2. I think it's very strong right now in the meta, honestly, in my opinion. Infernity this is hot garbage. I know Akil's gonna watch this and cream me. Yeah, that's right, Akil, send me to Knights of Darkshade. I dare you. Infernalite's not meta, Cosmo's not meta, Six Samurai's not meta, Medolce is Copium. This deck is not good. I'll put it in Rogue. Someone's gonna sack and do well with this deck. I know this deck will only show up during KC Cups, but when it does show up, it will be quite effective at getting its one top 100 or 2 or whatever it gets. The deck sacks. I think it's worse now because like when Live Twin go first and set up 4 disruptions, Like, not even the Sackiest, the Medulce answer are going to really be able to beat that. Also, effect failure is a big problem for the deck. If you get failured in mid combo, like on your what is it called, Chocolala mode, then you can't summon out of the deck, which pretty much means you lose the game. And Crow also stops Chocolata mode, so yeah. Not really good. It's almost copium doo-doo-doo, but I'm gonna leave this here. Just for now. Maskets are doo-doo. They're not good. Unless you play really badly against them, then they're not good. Yeah, overall. Okay, this I'm gonna use is Mech Live Twin. I think that's actually a tier 2 deck. I have Live Twin as a different deck, but Mech Live Twin is probably like a tier 2 deck. Because, or like tier 3, tier 2, because this deck has a good amount of chance to play through a decent amount of back row. With Live Twin, you're gonna probably do better into the Mirror because you're gonna be going. You could set up the redisruptions going first, including Secrets combo if you're lucky enough to open it, and then going second, you have your Mech Knights to sort of kind of help you through the Mirror match going second. It's a bit tricky still because they're gonna have 4 disruptions or the back row, so it's kind of hard to still beat Live Twin that way, but. Overall, I think Mech Twin is decent enough that, that it could do well going, second with the Mech Knights. So, if you don't know the turn 1 combo, basically what you do is you make Talkback Lancer, then you're going to summon a Mech. If you have 2 Mech Knights, and then you have the ability to basically, pop off entirely, go into your Morning Star, and then you make your Live Twin combo after that, and you end on like 2 back row and a Live Twin pop, so you have like 3 pops overall. Unless you're not playing middle-aged mechs, and you take the risk of not opening a back row, and then you could end on potentially 4 disruptions if you get lucky enough. But 3 to 4 disruptions, this deck is overall solid, so I'll put Mech Live Twin as tier 2. Mermail, not relevant. I mean, maybe is Copium. Water Exceed is like Copium. I think that's like Copium. World Chalice isn't good. Gimmick Puppet. If I don't put this as Rogue for Dr. Dinosario, he's gonna fry me. But if I put this as Rogue, I can't not put Water as Rogue. I can't. If I don't put this as Water, I can't put Gimmick Puppet, not put Water Rogue. It just doesn't feel right. Overall, I don't know. I feel like, Gimmick Puppet is quite dangerous because turn 1 they can't handle like 2 to 3 disruptions, and they have Bistal going second, which can dodge you against a lot of the non-targetable stuff. So you could probably OTK BLS. Yeah, Gimmick Puppet should be a rogue deck now that I think about it. I could see somebody doing quite well. I'm going to put this ahead of Medulcian. I'm going to put this ahead of Hero. I don't know about ahead of DDD, but I will put it ahead of those two. Not ahead of Hero. And not ahead of Hero. Behind Hero. But ahead of Medulcian. Medulcian's in the back. I like Medulce too, but it's like, it's still not good. Not Duel Links. I like it more in Master Duel. Odd Eyes. Odd Eyes is tier 2. Or tier 3, tier 2, tier 3, somewhere in here. And I'll put it in the back end of tier 2. Mainly because of its insane BLS matchup. You make Rudy Rose turn 1, and they pretty much lose the duel. Any decent hand will have the good enough follow-up to rip up the back row, threaten a Trish, and you win the game. If you go second, you probably run MSTs in your list, so you're popping their back row, and then threatening Trish also. Overall, Odd Eyes is a really strong deck. It does well into Gandora as well, so like those are 2 counter picks that you would send Odd Eyes into. Overall, it's going to be a deck that's going to be well represented in the KC Cup, honestly, because of BLS. Live Twin, I feel, is more of a counter for it because of you have enough extenders through Live Twin that them ending on turn 1 Dweller, ending on Dweller Volo, or just ending on Volo by itself, it doesn't even matter. Like, they can extend through it. Even in pure Live Twin, and then going first, ending on like 4 disruptions, Odd Eyes is going to really struggle to deal with that. So, You know, overall, I'd say it's the back end of a tier 2 deck, but it's definitely something that's going to get heavily represented in the KC Cup for sure. We're also going to be talking this on my live stream tonight, so make sure you're there. We're going to be going over the tier list again, and I'm going to get your inputs in case I miss something. Red Eyes is not meta. Not even discussing this. Maybe Copium Poo. Someone decides to play this and sets like 3 with a Red Eyes fusion or whatever. Rocket. Rocket is the top end of tier 2. Right up here with Gandora. Very close to almost being a tie in my opinion. Rocket is very strong because it deals with... It can do well into a lot of matchups. Except for BLS. Like... I mean, I'm going to put it behind Gandora, actually, because it fails to Gandora and it still loses to BLS, which I think that there could be a good amount of players who swap to Gandora if they feel it does well in the KC Cup. But I think that Rocket is really, really good at just taking out decks like Live Twin. It can potentially... Altergeist, that seems like a nightmare grind, but you can beat Altergeist, you can beat Live Twin... you can definitely beat a lot of different decks that are just currently in the meta at the moment. But yeah, overall, Rocket is quite strong right now. And its turn 1 boards, they can alternate like to Void Ogre, Draco Berserker, and Nightmare depending on the matchup. But I think its strong matchup in the Live Twin has to make it heavily considered to be a strong meta contender. And it's just a good general deck against a lot of decks. So, yeah, Rocket is tier 2 in my opinion. Next, we have... this is just Rose Dragons, and Rose Dragons not good. This is just for Odd Eyes mainly. Salamangreat is... Pure Salad is Copium. No, I won't say it's Copium. It's Rogue. It's Rogue. It's Rogue. It's ahead of Water. It's ahead of a Dolce and Gimmick Pub, probably. It still does some things well. I don't think it's top tier, but it's not garbage either. You know, it's a deck that can do well into some decks like Tenyi. I think it could do well in the Tenyi. I think it could also do well because of like, you know, setting up Dweller and then going turn 2 and OTKing your opponent. It's hard to 6k, but you could still do it if you have the right hand. I think that its presence of Dweller makes it a rogue deck because you can still make a turn 1 against BLS. It's not reliable, but I wouldn't be shocked if some people did decently on Salad. I just don't think it's anywhere close to the best deck right now, but it's rogue in its own right. Pure Salamangreat. You know, I think it's okay. I think, you know, Tenyi gaining to 6k life makes it tougher because you can't go Dweller update and, I mean, not Dweller, Ning update and OTK as easily, but still like the Dweller can hold down and you can win on advantage alone. So it's rogue in its own right. Shira's not meta. Starry Night for Happy Rax Jiren here. I will put this as rogue. I don't think it's good in the KC Cup, but Jiren is an amazing pilot, so he'll probably get top 100 just by him piloting it himself. I think Starries are better in metas where, you know, they're going to favor, like, PK metas where it's all dark related. You know, Light Twin's not all dark related, but, well, I guess it can get popped by Lila. I guess it actually may do well in the Light Twin now that I think about it. Starry Night. So, yeah, I can keep it as a rogue deck. Probably put it ahead of Water. Right here seems right with Salad, Gimmick Puppet, and, you know, right in this mix, and right below Hero. So, yeah, we'll keep it there for now. But Starry Night's definitely a decent deck and end on 6k life, 2 back row, and setting up their pop with Starry Night, Starry Dragon. Trains, no. TG, no. PK... Rogue, probably here. Again, everything else just getting pressed back at this point. PK is probably Rogue in its most highly regarded state. I think I would put it ahead of some of these decks, though. Probably here. PK is decent because you can still on a Requiem 2 back row. And the deck can still punch through a reasonable amount of boards, depending on what the build looks like. I would say PK could do reasonably well in a good pilot's hand. So if you feel comfortable on PK, like you could like run a build that runs more like back row removal and stuff that would go second. Again, I don't think it's the best deck because I don't think Requiem's that amazing in the format right now. I think BLS kind of punches through it. You could still like end on Levier and 3 back row against them, I guess, but it depends on the build of PK. If you run it, I think I would run it with more back row than not, and then aim to make like Levier turn 1 and then OTK on turn 2. But it's still decent because the deck can still deal with some disruption. So I think the right PK build can do reasonably well. But I definitely think it's a rogue deck right now. I don't think it really punches over like 3 back row through Live Twin. I mean, you could still end up Requiem against Live Twin. Yeah, PK is an interesting one. I would keep it as high rogue. I think it could do decently well. I think high rogue, for sure. Telra Knights are not meta. TGs. Trickstar, yes. Tier 3. Very good tier 3 deck at the moment. It has an amazing matchup in the Live Twin. I think it also does... the problem is it does poorly into BLS, and the Rocket matchup is kind of like, eh. But it could do well in the Odd Eyes, and it could do well into Live Twin. So, like, generally, the overall consensus of this tier list is that a lot of these decks will generally do well into about 2 or 3 of the decks and do badly into, like, 1 or 2 of them. That's kind of the consensus here. So, like, everything has a huge upside and downside. We'll reveal the tier list one more time, but when I'm done. But I think Trickstar, due to its amazing matchup against Live Twin, due to Dark Hall, Valor, Grow, I think you have a very, very... if you see a lot of Live Twin, like in the higher ranks, it might be a good idea to switch to Trickstar. So I'm going to keep this deck in my back pocket. So, you know, I think Trickstar is a reasonably good deck, for sure. Especially when you talk about things like Live Twin and other decks like that. And Odd Eyes. So you have these 2 decks going for it, but to deal with that, it depends on the build for Odd Eyes, but I would probably gear it to beating Live Twin and Odd Eyes more than anything else. So yeah, Trickstar definitely a tier 3 deck. Very good for the KC Cup. Definitely top tier. Okay, Warrock, no. Yosenju, no. Time Lord's definitely not. RDA is high rogue. I would probably put it... Now that I think about it, I'd probably put it at this. These 2 could futz with back and forth. I think, honestly, RDA is probably the second best rogue deck behind Blue Eyes because you can end on... Currently, because you can end on double Void Ogre with a Red Rain if you have the really good hand, which... There's not a lot of decks beating that, to be honest with you. So I think the only thing that kind of hides this behind the door a bit is BLS, because BLS can stomp Rezo because everything's a level 8. So if you don't end on the level 10, then it's kind of hard for Resonator to compete with that. But overall, I think Resonator is quite good because of the turn 1 threats. In turn 2, they might be able to run a board that might be able to run a version that's more turn 2 related. So overall, I think this is a tier, a hybrid rogue deck. Overall, I think that you could go to even a mech engine if you want to play through more disruption. So I would expect to sit high rogue, right there with PK, honestly. BLS. BLS is tier 1. Oh, bump this up. BLS is currently the best deck in the meta, and it's not hard to see why. Because BLS stomps on everything. It gains consistent advantage. You search a BLS every turn, practically. The normal gives you a +1. You have Envoy to deal with onboard threats. You have Endymion, which pops back row. You have Legendary Flame Swordsman that helps you swing over everything. Its main counter is Odd Eyes, but I think Gandora does decently well into it too, to where it's kind of unfavorable for BLS in my opinion. But overall, I think BLS is right now is the best deck in the game, and there's really no denying it. There's no need to excessively talk about it. But you can run hand traps in it. There's a lot of variants of the build, but I think like a mix of hand traps and back row is probably the best build for the KC Cup, but that's just me. Infinitrack is... highest rogue. It kills me to say this. It's not top tier anymore. It's not top tier because of Valor and Crow. That's why. Because the problem with Infinitrack right now is that it loses to Valor and Crow. Simply, yeah. If you get Valored on Brutal Dozer, it's rough. If you get Crowed on Tunneler, you're not drawing 2 cards. So if they know when to interrupt you, it can really stink. Overall, I think the deck could still do well. I think it can streak. I think if Infinitrack is one of those decks that if the meta shifts and people cut off Valor because they don't think Valor's doing well, then Infinitrack kind of really bumps its way in the top tier. So it's on the borderline of tier 3 in Rogue. But like I said, if Valor drops out in the cup, do not be surprised to see me playing this. Infinitrack I'm keeping in my back pocket because I need to see the trend of the KC Cup. But if it starts to trend and people start to go at Valor, I might indeed switch to track because I love the deck. So keep that in mind. I'm not exiting this deck in my back pocket. I just think it's Rogue right now because Valor and Crow kind of scare me. All right, D Hero. D Hero is Rogue. Right behind, right there. Probably put it right behind track. It's kind of like even. I'm gonna put this in doo-doo. Sorry, Safety. I think the thing with D Hero is that Live Twin do what D Hero do. They just do it better. D Hero's game is to go first and set 1 or 2 back row, but Live Twin's game is to go first and also set 1 or 2 back row. But the thing is Live Twin at the end of the day will end on more disruptions consistently than D Hero will. Just because it runs a smaller engine, it can run more back row, and it will just do it more consistently. And that's the reality of it. Plus, I think Live Twin has better follow-up than D Hero does, but that being said, I do like D Hero. I like the whole concept of making that dystopia, and I think it's really nice in some cases to like have bigger beaters than what you have in Live Twin. But I think D Hero's a high-end Rogue deck. I still think it's good, decently. I think it's decent. I don't think it's amazing, but I think it's decent. Overall, high-end Rogue. I wouldn't put it any higher than this, but high-end Rogue. Yeah. Okay. Next, I have Tenyi. Tenyi is tier 2. Tier 2, tier 3. Right around here. Tenyi is a good deck. Its turn 1 boards are better than you think. Good Tenyi pilot can play through at least 2 disruptions with a good hand. 3 to 4 is where it starts getting a little bit dicey, because then you really have to debate on what hands you have and stuff like that. It's hand dependent at that point. But overall, I think Tenyi's good. I think it could get on a nice streak with it. I think it has a pretty decent matchup into BLS. It's not amazing, but it's good enough. I think also the only thing that really holds it back is it has a really iffy matchup against Gandor. Its matchup against Gandor is not good. Its matchup against Odd Eyes is coin flippy. I think Tenyi will go as the meta goes also. I kind of want to put it at the highest end of tier 3, like low end tier 2. I think it kind of goes as the meta goes. If people start switching and you see all Odd Eyes, then I don't know how well the deck will do, because the problem is even though it has a better matchup than Odd Eyes, it's still coin flippy now. Because if you go second into Odd Eyes, if you go first against Odd Eyes, then Odd Eyes wins that matchup. But if you go second, Tenyi wins the matchup. So it's kind of iffy, at that point, I feel. But, you kind of see how it goes. But I think it's like a 50-50 coin flip matchup, honestly. BLS, it's decent enough. Gandora, I think it's in favor of Gandora. But like I said, Gandora and Odd Eyes might not be the most popular deck. So yeah, I'm going to ship this back to tier 2 behind Odd Eyes. Yeah, so overall, tier 2 deck. I think it favors going into Rocket, and it's decent into BLS. But it's definitely a deck that could streak overall. Live Twin, it's coin flippy. I think if they end up 4 disruptions, it's tough. But like if you go first, then you should be winning those games. So yeah, tier 2. Tunes. Okay. This is. Dang it. Rogue. It wouldn't close itself out for this deck not to do well. Because I can see this deck, taking out BLS because it has a favorable matchup against it. It actually, to be honest, could do well into Live Twin. So we'll have to see. I think Tunes. I'm going to kick myself for saying this. This could be some secret deck that somebody does really well on. I have more faith in this being the secret spice than I do Meteorology, but, we'll see how it goes. Altergeist or tier 3, nothing more. I don't even know if this is like tier 3 or it's just Rogue. Because I feel like if Altergeist don't go first, they get severely outpaced by everything that happens in the meta. And another problem too is in the KC meta, duels are going to be very long. Like, this deck I won't play the KC Cup because it is going to be exhausting to play. This deck is just purely exhausting to play because the duels could literally take 20 to 30 minutes in like a Rocket matchup or a, Altergeist match, mirror match. It could take so long for the duels to just finish that you may just not want to play this deck. But, for the people who like the deck, I do enjoy the deck's playstyle. It just takes so long. It's a tier 3 deck. Not more than that, I don't think. I think it's just tier 3 to Rogue. Because of those variability factors. Like I said, if it goes second, I feel like if you go second to Gandora, BLS, like in any deck, other than something like really slow, I think it gets completely outpaced. Especially like decks like Gandora and Gandora and Live Twin. Going second against those decks, you get very outpaced. And BLS too with the right hand. So that's the thing that I fear with Altergeist. Live Twin is tier 1 in my opinion. Whoops. Uh-oh. Can I get back here? Oh, no. Okay, I'm back. Woo! Woo! I thought I lost everything. Oh, I lost all my new decks. Oh, fiddlesticks. Alright. Well, since I lost all the new decks, we'll just talk about the 2 remaining decks that were remaining overall. We'll just talk about them. Because it's not going to let me get back my old deck, my old tier list. So yeah, we'll just finish up by talking about them. Oh, unless I can add them back. Can I? No. So I had Magic and Live Twin to talk about. Live Twin is a tier 1 deck. It's tier 1. There's no question about it. It's tier 1 in my opinion. There's no changing that. Because the deck, if it goes first, it just wins any duel. It goes advanced. And I'm dead serious about this. You're going to win 90% of the duels you go up against going first. Because the deck will consistently end on 4 disruptions. Magic Key is a tier 3 deck in my opinion. Magic Key is good. It's good. The only problem is like the hands are inconsistent. And the good the decent hands will lose to hand traps. Like Valor and Crow. So that's kind of the problem I have with the deck. But overall, it's like tier 3 in my mind. And yeah, that will do it. That's my tier list. If you have any questions and you would like to see more, check out my stream tonight at twitch.tv/Sean Matrai. Also, if you enjoy this video, like, comment, subscribe. And yeah, I'll catch you all next time. Peace. Bye, YouTube.